Pastor Brian from Summit Church here. I had planned to give a financial update before we took the offering on March 2nd. Now, that didn't happen because I was homesick. Pastor Jim preached that day for me. I gave that update last Sunday. Now, I know that not everybody was at church last week, so I decided to post the update here in a video as well because, as your elders, we've made some decisions that we want you to be aware of. Now, this is on the congregation Facebook page, not our general one, because this is family business. If you were in church last Sunday, you can just keep on scrolling and skip this video. If not, I encourage you to watch the rest of this video so you're informed about what's going on at Summit Church. Some financial decisions are the topic for this week's edition of Wednesday's Words with Pastor Brian. I want to start by saying the financial condition of the church is really good. I've got last week's bulletin here, and as you can see from the bar graphs here, we are ahead of budget and doing fine. Now, some of that's due to annual gifts that come in every year about this time. Some people get a tax benefit by giving their entire year's amount in one large gift, and that happens every year. It's part of the reason we're ahead of budget, but the fact is, we're further ahead at this point than we were last year. The last several years have ended with a surplus, and so our savings account has been growing. At the same time, there's some things in this building that need attention. The Elder Board has been discussing several of these projects over the last several months, and we decided at our last meeting to dip into those savings to get some of these projects done. Now, first is our boiler. The heat for our HVAC system comes from a boiler. It has a life expectancy of about 20 years. It's now 27 years old and is beginning to show its age. Joe Hendricks is a member of our church and he works in that industry. Joe has been working with the board on this issue and looked into things for us. The good news is that the boiler we currently have is still available. We can buy a replacement now, and it's essentially kind of like a plug and play operation. Joe suggested we replace the boiler now while everything's still available rather than waiting for it to break down completely at some point in the future when that may no longer be the case and we'd have to do a retrofit kind of job. We decided to follow Joe's advice and have begun moving forward on this project. It should be done later this year and should take care of the boiler for the next 25 years or so. Now, the second project is some sound issues in the sanctuary. You've probably heard that my microphone occasionally cuts out, and we thought it was a loose connection. It's actually a frequency issue. The frequency range for the mic is getting crowded. Newer microphones are at a different range, but that's really just one issue. The speakers are old and they don't include subwoofers. We only have one subwoofer. It's on the floor over on the left-hand side of the stage, so things aren't really balanced either. Additionally, there's a lot of sound bouncing around on those tall walls. Chad and Craig put together a proposal to address many of those issues, and we've decided to move ahead with this proposal as well. Now, the boiler and the improvements to the sanctuary, they'll come out of the building fund and our savings. They are not being covered by the operating budget. So they won't appear in these bar graphs that you see each week in the bulletin. The bulletin shows how much money we need to meet our operating expenses and how much money's been given year to date thus far. We want you to know about these projects because they won't be reflected in that weekly report. But there is one more expense that will affect our operating budget. Our copy machine has broken down every month for the last 3 months. And the folks who service it say that our model has been sunsetted because it's now over 10 years old. If it breaks down after the month of May, they can't guarantee that they'll be able to get parts for it. So we need a new copier too. Now, that's not a capital expense like a boiler or improving the sanctuary. It's an operating expense that will be absorbed into our annual budget, and we wanted you all to know about it. So, to sum things up, the church is doing really well financially, and we appreciate your continued generosity toward this ministry. We're striving to use the funds that you give to keep this place going and to keep it up to date. We ask that you first give to the general fund because that's what carries the day to day operations, and 10% of that goes to missions as well. We ask that giving to things like the building fund, which will pay for the boiler, be in addition to your regular giving. If you have any questions about any of this, please talk with me or any of the other elders.